Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website and podcast. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so that you can follow along. In accordance with our group conscience from October of 2023, we will also be posting our podcast on YouTube, again in audio only. We feel this is an effective way to carry our message to those seeking recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous. And tonight the recap will start on page 72, where it says having made our personal inventory, and will end on page 78, people who do not understand alcoholism. And our study portion will start on page 74, if we cannot or would rather not, and it will end on page 75, where it says Spirit of the Universe. And do we have any announcements tonight? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I am a recovered alcoholic and my name is Alyssa. Welcome to the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation followed by our family's fog light prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Trish. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted and sharing, as not to distract others or yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. A friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share. We will call on you in the order hands are raised.
From the foreword to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are focus on your breath and posture. Breathe in God and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God. Let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study. And let's call in those little monks. Okay, hold on.
Click optimize.
And if you would join us in our family's fog light prayer. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us.
Amen.
And let's have our secretary's report. Come on in, Kat.
Thank you, Trish. Hi, I'm Kat, and I'm an alcoholic in recovery. I've asked Aaron to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Aaron.
Thank you. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered, but never cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink. Responsible. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime, but we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in the body. Page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a big book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapsed, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands for people joining us for the first time, please?
I don't see anybody.
Okay,
Well, go ahead.
and those recovered alcoholics, would you please put your hands up? Thank you. These are your potential sponsors. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week? If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time questionable. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal, posted in chat and on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website, post it in chat. Thank you and see you next week.
Thank you, Kat. From the chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out in which we can absolutely agree, and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligation and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 9. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 10. Please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous. Come on in, Terry.
I am Terry Pickled Chips, recovered alcoholic. So I am on page 562, and I'm going to read the short and the long forms of Tradition 10. Short form, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. And the long form, there's no AA group or member should ever in such a way as to implicate AA express any opinion on outside controversial issues, particularly those of politics, alcohol reform, or sectarian religion. The Alcoholics Anonymous groups oppose no one. Concerning such matters, they can express no views whatsoever. Well, that really says it all, but I'm going to give you a little history, because those of you who know me know I love the history, and I love our founders and how this all came about. But the Washingtonian Society was the first society composed entirely of alcoholics trying to help one another. Well, what happened with this group and what we learned from this group is they started getting into politics, abolition, I don't know if I'm saying that right, abolition of slavery was a stormy political issue back then. So they were taking sides on the whole slavery issue. And then came along the temperance crusaders. You know, when Prohibition came about, these Washingtonians really got into all of this stuff, and were really supporting different causes, and that was their demise. They completely lost their effectiveness in helping alcoholics. So our founders learned a great lesson from that we have to stay out of issues that, any issue, it doesn't matter, any controversial issue where there's two sides, we have to stay out of. We can discuss it before or after the meeting. We could discuss it at coffee after the meeting, but Alcoholics Anonymous does not support that. Support us making our meetings about who's right and who's wrong and who's going to win the presidency and all that. We keep those out of our meetings. We do not have AA promote any of these issues or make anybody even think that AA is promoting these issues. Because it says all sorts of people and organizations at the beginning begged us to take sides, to deliver opinions and fight evils all up and down the line. Again, we instantly saw that if we ever embarked upon such a course, it would certainly be our finish. Drunks by the thousands would be kept away from AA through sheer prejudice. The same old peril would again menace us. This time it would crash in from the outside. So they make that very clear that this would certainly keep people away, which it would. I can't imagine if when I came to AA, they were endorsing a certain viewpoint publicly. If it wasn't the one I believed in, I would have stayed away. So we got to be really careful about that stuff. I haven't had a whole lot of experience with this. One time a guy came into a meeting with a T-shirt that had a presidential candidate on the shirt, and one of the leaders marched him outside, told him he could not wear that shirt in a meeting, and made him turn it inside out. And I think it was a good lesson to all of us. I'm kind of embarrassed for the guy, but that it came back in kind of sheepish. And then at my meeting, I have a beach meeting on Thursday nights. It got into a heated discussion after the January 6th insurrection. Heated discussion at a meeting. And I had to stand up. I'm not a leader, I'm not the secretary, I'm not any position in that meeting, but I had to stand up and jump up and down and raise my hands and stop, guys, stop. Tradition 10, we can't be talking about this stuff. And they reluctantly stopped, but it never happened again. So anyway, I always find the traditions fascinating, and I highly encourage anyone who wants to learn more about these traditions to volunteer to take a 3-week commitment, because it's really a good one. Thanks so much for letting me do this.
And thank you, Terry, for that. Terry will be our traditionalist for traditions 10, 11, and 12. And if you are interested in being our traditionalist for traditions 1, 2, and 3, put a note in the chat. Let me know, let Jamie know, and we can talk to you about what it is that it entails. And, anybody in here could take up that on for 3 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Trish. And we hear a lot of things said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. What follows is one of the things we often hear, along with what the Big Book has to say on the subject. Jamie, we don't drink no matter what?
Good evening, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic. Good to be with all of you and glad you're all here tonight. And here's what the Big Book has to say on it. Many of us felt that we had plenty of character. There was a tremendous urge to cease forever. Yet we found it impossible. This is the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it. This utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book study guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight we are going to start our recap on page 72, which will be read tonight by Nancy, followed by our study portion, which will be read by Lisa.
After the page is read, we will ask the questions from the imaginary podium, starting back to where the study portion began on page 74. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is we're going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, and observations based on what we just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you may hear a timer beep or let you know that your time is finished.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, for example with your sponsor, please do not be offended if we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the page's study, which brings us to the words of one of our co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol through the teachings and practice of the 12 steps, is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
And let's take a quick look at how we arrived at this point. We didn't just randomly open the book to page 72 through 75 and say, this is what we're going to study tonight. This meeting started right here in this room in January of 2020. And then when COVID hit, like most things in the world, meeting shut down for a little while, reopened first as hybrid, and then we morphed directly into just a Zoom meeting. And we study the book starting on the cover page with our first promise of how thousands of men and women recovered from alcoholism. And we study line by line up until the end of page 164. Then we also do Dr. Bob's Nightmare, and we spend 2 weeks on the traditions. And then we end our 94-week study with Appendix 2, a spiritual experience. And we do use the spiritual experience as a part of the study 3 different times when it's referred to in the footnotes in the early sections of the book. But then we also use it as a standalone week to close out the study in week 94. And then we go back to the beginning and start all over again. And we are in week 46 this week of our 94-week study. And we're in our 4th year of being the primary purpose Big Book study. And we're in our 3rd season, our 3rd time of going through the book. And each time I come, even though my home group prior to this was a Big Book study, I've been at other Big Book studies, there's always so much I learn in this group each time. It's not just I go through the book one time and that's it. Every time I open the book and read another page, I'm learning new stuff. So keep coming back and see what you can learn. Thank you.
Before we start the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website and our YouTube channel.
And so, Nancy, come on in and start with our recap, please.
Nancy Alcoholic, into action. Having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We have been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacle of our path. We have admitted certain defects. We have a rough way what the trouble is. We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now, these are about to be cast out. This requires action in our part, which, when completed, will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the fifth step in the program of recovery mentioned in this preceding chapter. This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think we have done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hang on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves, but they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty, in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story. More than most people, the alcoholic lives a double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. The inconsistency is made worse by the things he does on his sprees. Coming to his senses, he is revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think someone might have observed him. As far as he can, he pushes these memories far inside himself. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension that makes for more drinking. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth, or nor have we followed their advice. Unwilling to be honest with this sympathetic man, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder many in the medical profession have the low opinion of alcoholics and their chance for recovery. We must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long and happily in this world. Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course, will want to go to a properly appointed authority whose duty is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with someone ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Nancy. Now Miss Lisa is going to come in and read our study portion, which starts on page 74, if we cannot or would not do this.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa. I'm an alcoholic. If we cannot or would rather not do this, we search our acquaintance for a closed-mouthed, understanding friend. Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the first person. It may be one of our own family. but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or our parents which would hurt them and make them unhappy. We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story will we tell to someone who will understand yet be unaffected. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, it may be one is so situated that there is no suitable person available. If that is so, this step may be postponed, only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it at the first opportunity. We say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person. It is important that he be able to keep a confidence, that he fully understand and approve what we are driving at, that he will not try to change our plan, but we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. We have a written inventory and we are prepared for a long talk. We explain to our partner what we are about to do and why we have to do it. We should realize that we are engaged upon a life and death errand. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence. We pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe.
Thank you, Miss Lisa. For our answer readers, please speak clearly into your microphone. We will ask the questions from our script by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff. The answers to the questions will be sentence by sentence, coming directly out of this week's study, beginning with the first sentence and ending with the last one. If those answering questions lose their place, please allow me to redirect them to the correct sentence. Thank you. And so here are our answer readers. Nancy, Linda, Kenny, Kat, William, and Terry. So go ahead and if you guys could get yourselves unmuted. And starting back at the page 74 if we cannot. Nancy, if we don't want to go to a member of the clergy, what can we do?
If we cannot or would rather not do this, we search our acquaintance for close-mouthed, understanding friends.
Thank you. Linda, what professionals might be acceptable?
Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person.
Thank you. And Kenny, two-part question. What about a family member? What can we not do if we use a family member or close friend?
It may be one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or our parents which would hurt them and make them unhappy.
Thank you. Kat, what is it that we have no right to do?
We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense.
Thank you. William, how do we handle some parts of our story?
Such part of our story we feel to someone who will understand, yet be unaffected.
Thank you. Terry, what rule do we follow?
Rule is we must be hard on ourselves but always considerate of others.
Thank you. Nancy, what situation could exist?
Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, it may be one is so situated that there's no suitable person available.
Thank you. Linda, two-part question. What do we do if there's no one we can share it with, but we must be ready to do what?
If that is so, this step may be postponed. Only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it at the first opportunity.
Thank you. Kenny, why do we say this?
We say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person.
Thank you. Kat, three-part question. What is important about the person who will hear our fifth step? What must the person hearing our fifth step understand? And they must not do what?
It is important that he be able to keep a confidence, that he fully understands and approve what we are driving at, that he will not try to change our plan.
Thank you. William, can we use this as an excuse to postpone?
But we must not use this as an excuse to postpone.
Thank you. Terry, when do we do our fifth step?
We decide who is to hear our story. We waste no time.
Thank you. And Miss Nancy, two-part question. What do we have? We are prepared for what?
We have written inventory and we are prepared for a long talk.
Thank you. Linda, what do we explain to the person who is to hear us?
We explain to our partner what we are about to do and why we have to do it.
Thank you. Kenny, what must this person realize?
He should realize that we are engaged upon a life or death errand.
Thank you. Kat, how will most people feel about doing this for us?
Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence.
Thank you. William, how do we take our fifth step?
We pocket our proud and go to it eliminating every twist our character, every dark cranny of the past.
Thank you. Terry, if we are completely honest and thorough, what is the first promise?
Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted.
Thank you. Miss Nancy, what is the second promise?
We can look the world in the eye.
Thank you. And Linda, what is the third promise?
We can be alone at perfect peace and ease.
Thank you. Kenny, what is the fourth promise?
Our fear falls from us.
Thank you. Kat, what is the fifth promise?
We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator.
Thank you. William, what is the sixth promise?
They have that certain spiritual belief, but now we are begun to have a spiritual experience.
Thank you. Terry, what is the seventh promise?
Feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly.
Thank you. And Miss Nancy, what is the eighth promise?
We feel we are on Broad Highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe.
Thank you so much. We will now open the floor for sharing. If you have experienced strength and hope with the portion of the book that was just read, feel free to share. A friendly reminder as we share, absence of profanity offends no one. We are open for comment, questions, observations based on what we have just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Hi, Miss Linda. Come in and share with us.
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm an alcoholic. The fifth step is a very important step because, it says the exact nature of our wrongs.
Um, I can go ahead and I can admit I can sit there in silence with God and talk about all the things. God, please remove this character defect from me. But what happens when I have to tell another person? Then it becomes a lot more real, and then I hear it, and I realize what I'm doing. Self-awareness for the fourth step, which is the discovery step, and self-awareness for the fifth step too. How am I affecting other people? The exact nature of my wrongs. It says that we're kind to other people, but we have to be tough on ourselves. In other words, we really have to take a cold, hard look at ourselves. I had to take a cold, hard look at myself. I had to do a deep dive. I had to listen to another person share with me about the exact nature of their wrongs before I understood what mine was, because I clearly could not see mine. That is the whole importance and the significance, of having that other person there when you're doing that fifth step. What am I doing? And why do I keep doing it? And it talks about the confidentiality. Last week, Jamie was sharing, and he said anybody that is doing steps with someone and they break their confidence, that's bad sponsorship. And I listened, and I didn't share, I just wanted to listen. But I had an experience where I did fourth step and fifth step with someone, and they did break my confidence. When I told them something happened between us, and I said, I'm going to move on. I'm not going to have you as my sponsor anymore. This person hit the ceiling, and my fourth step was all over the place. Now, I'm so glad I was about 4 years sober. Now, I'm glad that I didn't tell her everything. I didn't trust her like that to tell her everything. But what I told her was enough. And she had no business breaking my confidence like that. But it was an act of vengeance. I wasn't going to do what she wanted me to do. It was an act of vengeance. And that lets you know some people are not ready to sponsor people. They're not. If they didn't get rid of certain character defects, they don't need to sponsor people. I have a meeting that I go to, and William goes to this meeting too. And this lady says it all the time, Zelda. He said, if you're going to share something, don't attach your names, because gossip it hurts and it kills. Now, suppose I would have drank behind that lady doing that. Suppose it could have been an adverse effect. You know how they say the what is it, Isaac's or Newton's law, you get the opposite or equal, response. I could have turned around and either drank, or I could have turned around and went after her. I could have came for her, And I didn't drink, but I was getting ready to come for her. And one person that I was with, they said, you're not going to do that. They said, this person, they was like, I need you to get on your knees right now. I need you to forgive this lady. I said, are you freaking crazy? You know how much humiliation, embarrassment, and shame this lady did? And they pointed out to me, they said, yeah. And then if you do something to her and you're in jail, they'll be cracking up laughing. Or if you drink, they'll be cracking up laughing. And they pointed out to me, they said, hurt people. And they also pointed out to me that was the whole motive of doing that, so that they could see you react and then turn around and hurt yourself. They hurt you one time, they want to see you hurt yourself. And I had 4 years. I didn't really make too much sense of it. But, later on in my recovery, and this lady didn't stop. This lady didn't stop hounding me, bugging me, bad-mouthing me, a lot of stuff, And that just let me know how sick she was. She was not rap type. And as time went on, I didn't even know she had passed away. One person was like, oh, she passed away 5 years ago. I was like, for real? I didn't know that. It's like, yeah. I was wondering why all the gossip and stuff had stopped, because she wasn't there no more. And I was like, that's really sad. And someone looked at me and said, sad, what she did to you? I said, no, I'm at a place of forgiveness now. Because anybody that dies of cancer, that's a painful death. And when you're laying there, every and anything you did flashes before your eyes. And when we meet our Maker and we stand in front of our Maker with our naked soul, we got to answer for everything we've done. And if you tried to hurt someone and it could have possibly made them go back out, that's something you got to answer for. That's something you got to answer for. And I was in a meeting sharing. I said, I don't wish a person to drink. Because if I wish them to drink, I'm basically wishing that they die. I said, I'm not, I was like, If I'm angry with someone, I'll tell them, I'll talk to them rather than talk about them. I'll talk to them. I'll tell them that I'm angry. And then I'll deal with my resentment. That's why we have our steps, to deal with our resentments. And you have a lot of people that are sponsoring people. And it was one young lady I encountered, and I let her know, I said, you're telling me to sponsor your business, and you should not. I said, I want you to read that 12-step about working with others. I said, and I want you to also read in the Living Sober book about sponsorship. And I told her, I said, you need to respect her confidence and her personal life. You can't tell me just because we're talking. I said, this is gossip. I went to a meeting and these girls were texting each other, their sponsees 4-step. I said, this is insane. This is insane. When I did the 4-step again, I did it again. I've done it before with other people, but when I did it again this time, because I had surgery on my knee, and I had surgery on my knee when I was a child, so here it comes again. I have to get it done again, so that trauma came back up, and it kicked up a lot of stuff, so I did a 4-step on it. And this woman was so kind, this woman was so loving, and she had a lot less time than me, but that was neither here nor there. She had the ability to do a 4-step. She had the ability to do it. And she's like a therapist too. And she's in recovery. So she used both of them. And she told me, she said, at this point, she said, we hit the wall. Now it's time for therapy. But she let me know that, she told me, she let me know a lot of the things that we fear, that's just stuff from the past. That could be trauma from the past, and then it comes up, even if you think you're over something, it can come back to visit you at any time. And I like what it says. We have to respect this person's confidence, and it's the 3 things that we have to do in here. And I was writing it down, 1, 2, and 3. I was writing it down, and it's certain qualities. It's important that he be able to keep confidence, that he fully understand and prove what we are driving at, that he will not try to change our plan. Those are very 3 important criteria for when you're sponsoring someone. I have to have learned how to not judge people and look down at them. I have to learn how to have compassion for people. I have to learn how to respect their privacy. I have to understand that if I say anything, it could actually take them out. They could maybe take their life. They could drink, they could take their life. I remember there was one guy, he told me, he said his sponsor was going to do a 4-step with this guy, and he said the guy was very scary. The guy had did 20-something years and incarcerated, in one of the really tough correctional facilities. And the guy said, I want to do a 4-step with you. And he said, oh, wait a minute, before we do this 4-step, he said, I'm going to do this 4-step with you. He said, and if anything gets back to the meeting, he said, I'm going to kill you. And that man was scared. I don't think he did a 4-step with him. But you have some people that have that mentality. You have to be very careful who you're doing a 4-step with, and you have to be very careful what you can take, because some people will share their 4-step and it can kick stuff up. It can kick your own issues up. And I'm not saying having this program down packed, but if there's certain issues you haven't worked on, there's certain qualities that they're talking about in here, certain things that you've learned, you don't need to do a 4th or 5th step with someone, because this is a real serious step, the 4th and the 5th step. People start talking about all kinds of things. They start revealing all kinds of things. One man revealed something that he had a dream. They come to find out that man was sitting in jail, because his dream was that he murdered someone, and he really did in a blackout. So you have to be careful exactly who you're going to share with, and then what you're going to share too. You have to really be careful. But this is to me, this is a very crucial step in our recovery. It's so crucial. We're breaking the chains, man. We don't have to be held to that shame and guilt and remorse and anger and confusion. We're just free of it. And that's what, to me, the 4th and the 5th step is. I know when the 5th step into action, but it's a freeing of the spirit and the soul. And for me, if it's too much, I may tell a person, stop, let's revisit this again, your 4th step, if it's too much for me to bear, because I have to be honest with that person too. And if it's somebody I really don't care for, I may be like, maybe you'd be better off if you ask someone else to do your fourth or your fifth step. Because me not liking them is going to make me biased towards what they're saying. I'm not going to break their confidence, but I may be biased and I may judge them because I'm a human being too. So then that's when I have to be honest and let them know I'm not the person for you to do the fifth step. But we got to be honest. It's not about our pride. It's not about our ego. Oh, I sponsor people. Oh, I do the fourth or the fifth. And that's not what it's about. Personal ambition and patting yourself on the back. That's not what it's about. That is not what it's about. I have to do, like they say, test for God's will, test for self will, test for God's will. What is God's will? What is God's will? What is God's will in this whole grand scheme of things of doing the fourth and the fifth step? That's what I have to follow. It can't be about my ego, my pride. And if this person never wants to speak to me again after we do a fifth step, I still have to keep their confidence. I still cannot say anything about them. I still have to hold my tongue. And that's it. And see, that's where the real recovery comes in. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Miss Linda. Miss Suzanne, I saw you waving at us. Did you want to come in and share? Nope, we'll come back. All right, Jamie, come on in and share with us.
Good evening, family. My name is Jamie. Extremely grateful, recovered alcoholic. And good stuff. I love this part of the book. I love the guidance that this part of the book gives us. My sponsor, when I took and went to do my fifth step with him, I said the Serenity Prayer on my way to his house, and I got this chill right up the back of my neck, and he laughed when I told him, and he said, "Oh, you really meant it," and I did mean it. So when the book was written, we didn't have a whole lot of sponsorship, and much sponsorship was done through correspondence, telephone, mail, so on and so forth. Oftentimes, this process could take days or weeks to address a problem. In our lives today, we call our sponsor. If they don't answer immediately, we send them 75,000 texts because we're in panic, right? But our sponsors, keeping in consideration that they might be working with somebody else right at the moment, and we will get back to them as soon as possible. At least that's the way I try and work with things. So my sponsor was another part of discovery in my fifth step. I had most everything down, but he helped me see some other things, like asking me, "Are you willing to forgive that person after my first share of my first resentment?" And it's like, hell no, don't you understand what they did to me? And in his wisdom, he let me think about it. And as I thought about it, if I want to be forgiven for the things that I have done in my life, and if it's true what we ask in the Lord's Prayer when we close, to be forgiven as we forgive, then it's forgiveness is an absolute necessity as part of the process of healing from old emotional baggage. So there's really only one place that I deviate from the book. And again, when the book was written, the first guy in Minnesota did not have sponsorship necessarily. So, that's why it suggests maybe someone of the clergy or someone who will keep things confidential. In my personal life, in my personal relationships with the men and women that I have had the honor to work with over the years, and currently still do, I have an absolute responsibility to keep that same ethical guideline in my own life that ministers and psychiatrists do. Now I know sponsors who will say, You know, if you're going to tell me something bad, if you're going to tell me something illegal, don't tell me. That's their own moral struggle. It is not a moral struggle for me. You can tell me anything that you have done in your life, no matter what kind of crime or how heinous it may be, because my place and my position is not to be in a position of judgment or let my own moral values cloud the work that we are about to do. My purpose is to help whoever it is I'm working with find a pathway to making it right in their life. And we do that through the course of some other steps that follow this as well. I do things a little bit different, in this chapter, we'll get into it next week. But there's really only one place I deviate from the book, and that's upon returning home. We take the book down off the shelf, and we continue to read. And when my sponsor gave me the suggestion, because my sponsor has never told me what I have to do in almost 34 years, nor do I tell anyone what they have to do. The blessing was, as I found it, I said, well, how do I know when to stop? And he said, you'll know. And that was at the end of the 7-step prayer, was where I found the stopping point. But there's a reason that I say this, because if you come to my house to do a 4th and 5th step, and there's a few people in this room tonight that have done that, I take and first, before we even start, we pray. We review the first 3 steps, 1, 2, and 3. We hold our hands and hit our knees together, and once again do the 3rd step prayer. We go into that 4th and 5th, and as they begin to tell me things, I tell them things about my own story, about my own past, about my own life, to help build that confidence and understanding of what we are trying to do here. Being a judge is way above my pay grade. I cannot be the judge of anyone in mankind. I can look at situations they get themselves into and say, no, I really don't want to play that game for myself. But when it comes to doing this work, I am supposed to be kind, loving, and an understanding guide through this process to help them find the pathway to making things right in their life. And I don't care if they're a murderer or they've created some sort of sexual crime. It is not my place to judge. That's only God's place. So if I can guide them to finding the pathway to make things right and not demand that they make it right, that's not my place either. I'm just providing a pathway for them. That being said, after we have done, and this is the only place I deviate from the book, after we have done step 5, I don't send them home and say, go take the book down off the shelf. They spend more time at my house. And I give them a while to absorb what we have just done. Give them a break. I'll take and go do some things. And I'll come back and I'll ask them a question. Is there anything that you feel is unfinished, that you need to talk more about, get a little deeper into, that is still troubling you? And if there is, we talk about that, and we try and get to a place of peace with it. And then, if they are confident that they have, and God will always reveal more to us, but if they're confident that they have, then we review the first 5 proposals as the book instructs us to do. And then we sit down and we read step 6 together and talk about it. And step 6 is simply about the willingness to believe that God can remove these things in ourselves which we have found objectionable. Now, if somebody has created 14 homicides in their life and they don't find it objectionable, then that's not my place to decide. That's still their place to decide. But in holding with the confidentiality, and I will take it to my very grave, my position is it's up to them to make it right, not for me to intervene, because I don't know whether it's true or false. They could be a great storyteller. And so if they have the willingness in step 6, we move into the 7th step prayer and we hit our knees and hold hands and do it together. And what I have found is the relief that people have, oftentimes having a spiritual experience in doing it this way is phenomenal. I've only ever had a couple of people that I know doing it this way pick up a drink. And that's because they forgot what they did. Because life got too painful. Because they never moved into the process of forgiveness to heal from that old emotional baggage. If the 4th step is done properly, by the time we do step 5, they have their 8-step list in their hand. I send them home to write some letters, not to send to the people that they've harmed, but they're writing the letters for themselves. And I put it to them this way. Having just done this work and feeling like you feel right in this very moment, if you could say to these people what it is that you want to say to them, having done this work, what would you say to them? That's what you put in the letter, and the letter is for you. And they call me and we go through the letter, and sometimes there might be a couple of rewrites, sometimes we might still be looking at a little too much selfishness and self-centeredness within ourselves. Sometimes too many fears. So we work through them individually. But oftentimes, when they have written that letter, I ask them, I don't tell them, I ask them to pray on it. And if it is the right time, this letter may be a very appropriate letter for your amends process. But that is between you and God, and He will provide the time. What I have found is in the process of doing this 5th step in this fashion, is what happens is we go from step 1 to 9 in a course of about 5 hours of sitting together. And I have found it to be such an amazing healing process for people. And this is part of the miracle of recovery. Now that's just the way I have learned how to do things over the years. But I have found it to be the most effective process. How many, and I'm not going to ask anybody, how many times you ever tell somebody you're sponsoring to go do something and they didn't do it? Here, I'm going to frame it this way. This is the consideration. How many times did your sponsor suggest that you do something and you didn't go do it? So we have to go through a process where we teach by example. You know, all of us have value. All of us display attitudes. And here's what I have to ask myself. Is my attitude that I have in life today worth being a pathway that someone else may follow? I can't do that. I can't be that pathway if I'm in judgment or criticism or you didn't do this. You know, the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is not about me changing the rest of the world. It's about me becoming changed through the process. And I have to be an example. and a guide of how to do that. And if I'm not doing that, I'm absolutely wrong. I want to close with this. Everyone should try sponsorship, but not everyone is meant to be a sponsor. There are sponsors that will turn you into an Amtrak train going on into a head-on collision with another Amtrak train at any time. I do not have the right as a human to tell any other human what they have to do. I can only be an example of what you can become as a result of doing the work. And I've shared way too long. I will share the time. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Jamie. Hi, Miss Lisa. Come in and share with us.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I like this reading. I was thinking when I was reading how our founders really knew the alcoholic mind, huh? But we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. Boy, my disease would run with that one. It's something, and it still does. If I let it. I also, something that I add to my writing, this part, we have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. I wasn't in AA at this time, but my mind is starting to open, and I'm starting to see things. And like Trish said at the beginning of the meeting, you learn something every time I read it. And this is the first time I thought of this situation in my life, so that's a great thing. And also, I believe I have the right people that I'm talking to this time around, and I'm very grateful for it. I have experience with, I had a sponsor, probably around 2013, 14. And, she took me to meetings, went to meetings 6 days a week. And we'd usually see her sponsor at that meeting, and we'd all sit together. And, I didn't think anything of it. And then one day I just thought to myself, Lisa, if they're talking about other people, they're talking about you. And, so not long after that, I was very afraid to do it, but I told her I need to talk to you. And we went out, and I told her, and she said I was expecting this. And so that kind of ended. And then the next one I had asked, which was not too long after that, woman I got close to, and she told me that if I want you to start the steps. And that scared me. And I don't think I said no. I think I said I just wasn't ready. And she said, well, I can't be your sponsor. And I got mad about that. And then I didn't try again up until a couple years ago. So yeah, you got to be really careful, who you pick. But like I said, I believe I struck gold with this one. And just talking and conversation, I felt comfortable enough. I didn't even realize it was coming out. It was just a conversation. A couple things in my past that I thought I'd take to the grave. And after it came out, I was just like, wow. I was amazed. So, I feel good about that, and I'm very grateful. And also here, when it says we can look the world in the eye, we can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. I've had that the past couple weeks. You know, I'm seeing that. I'm feeling it. I'm experiencing it. And you know, how in the step work it has, you know, the fear behind the fear. Like they're all intertwined, yeah. And just by facing like one fear, you know, a lot of other things are happening because of that. And it's really good, you know. I'm seeing how closed off I was because of them. And, you know, starting to live life and do things on my own. And again, and not even again, differently, because it just amazes me. And I know I'm just starting this. So, you know, I feel very grateful that I'm able to see certain things in myself and do things differently. And you know, and I'm finally getting this. I'm finally starting to see, you know, what it's about. I was so blocked. I just, you know, I think of this phrase I heard not too long ago. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I couldn't see what I couldn't see. And that's starting to change now. I'm changing, and I'm really grateful for it. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Miss Lisa. Glad you're here. Keep coming back. More will be revealed. All right, Trish, come in and share with us.
Thanks, Alyssa, and thanks for taking the meeting. I'm Trish, and I'm an alcoholic. And, you know, I love how it talks about how to choose the person that we're going to take our fifth step with. We think well before we choose the person. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must and will want to go to the properly appointed person. We may still want to go with someone ordained even if we don't have that connection. And of course, sometimes we encounter people who don't understand alcoholics. And if we'd rather not do this, we search our acquaintances for closed mouth and understanding friends. My first fifth step was going to be with someone of the clergy who I knew. And as I was in the middle of writing my fourth step, he suddenly unexpectedly passed away. So that didn't work. And then I talked to my counselor at the time because she said she had an understanding not of AA but of Al-Anon. And I figured that would give me the peace of mind of her confidentiality by trade, because I didn't trust anybody. I wasn't going to tell anybody anything because I knew whatever I told you was going to go all over the town. So I knew that wouldn't happen with her, and I also knew from her words she had an understanding of the program. But as it turned out, she didn't have much background in Al-Anon or as a result also AA. So I got to unload some stuff on her. I got to share some things with her, but she didn't have a whole lot of feedback or direction of what to do after that. And I find now that when I have fourth and fifth step come up, even though I am able to recognize a lot of times my defects, my shortcomings as I do the work, with the help of somebody else, it also gives me a different idea. It gives me another perspective. And I can't find where it is in here without looking at it. We have no right to save our skin at another person's expense. In such parts of our story we will tell. It's got to be somebody who's going to be unaffected. but I've also got to make sure that as I'm doing the work, and even with years and years in the programs, things still come up that I need to do the fourth and fifth step on. Sometimes it's old stuff that I think that I had never thought about before that pop up, and other times it's just things in life. But while I can go through the process, self-awareness isn't good enough. I have to have someone else to have that conversation with, who's going to see things that I don't see, or see things that I don't want to see. And then together we walk through the process of what comes next, recognizing those defects, asking God to remove them, and then moving into amends if necessary, if it's needed in that case. But I can't do it on my own. I can't always see what there is to see just by doing it by myself. And that's why it's so important to take this fifth step with another person. And somebody who I trust, and somebody who I know is going to hold my confidence. And that said, as I'm listening to fifth steps that others share with me, a lot of times I recognize in those fifth steps myself, as we're discussing the shortcomings in the other person that they've identified and talking, well, what about this, what about that? I also notice in myself sometimes shortcomings that are defects that I never noticed, or maybe didn't notice so glaring until it's come up in a conversation. So, when I'm doing a fifth step, whether it's my own with someone else or listening to someone else's, there's always something there I can learn about myself. And like Jamie said, it's certainly not my place to go and share with anybody else what's told to me. I did have a sponsor at one point who worked in the field, was very difficult to get in touch with, but when we were talking on the phone, most of our conversation was, oh, this person I sponsor is doing this, and this person's doing that, and a lot of it was just like day-to-day stuff. Oh, she's gone to this meeting, it's a good meeting, this one's doing, but I just didn't feel comfortable doing a fifth step and giving her all my deep dark secrets that I was going to go to my grave with and never tell anybody, because she was telling me too much of what other people were doing. So it was very important for me to find somebody who I knew would be closed-mouthed. And then on the other hand, when I'm listening to a fifth step, to remember that it's my job not just to guide someone through that process, to share what I did, what I learned about myself, part of my story, but it's also my job to be closed-mouthed with what they tell me, because it's not my place to go and share it with anybody else. And that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Trish. Miss Terry, come in and share with us.
Hello, Pickle family. I'm Pickled Chips, recovered alcoholic. I love that we got into the fifth step tonight. I've had the great honor as a younger woman in my 50s, maybe early 60s, where I had many sponsees and I had many opportunities to listen to fifth steps. And I always felt so blessed and so honored that they chose me to share it with. And I did gain a reputation of sorts, somebody that would go to my grave with their secrets that I would never, I wanted to prove that there's someone they could trust. And so I even listened to fifth steps of ladies that were not my sponsees, but needed somebody to share it with. And that's a little tougher because you got to go back and see what their understanding of the previous steps are. But it was always an honor to me. I've done a couple, maybe 4 fifth steps formally. And the first one I've shared this, some of you already know this, but I just love that it happened this way. Is I stood on my sponsor's doorstep for a few minutes and I couldn't decide whether I was going to go through with it. I was just too scared. And I go, no, I'm going to leave. No, I'm going to stay. No, I'm not going to ring the doorbell. Yes, I am. And I just, if anybody was watching me, they would have thought, what the heck is that lady doing? But I finally had the courage to ring the doorbell, and she knew I was there. She saw my car drive up, and she was just waiting for me to make the decision. And, it went real smoothly, and I felt a great relief. We burned my fourth step in her fireplace, and we did a little review and a little follow-up, and I blurted out, I got a bottle of 30 Xanax in my medicine cabinet just in case this didn't work. And I wasn't planning on telling her that, but I didn't. And without even thinking of it, I told her, because she'd gained that comfortability, that trust. So she drove home with me and we flushed it. But if I hadn't have had that very sponsor and felt the comfort that I felt, I probably wouldn't have blabbed it. But it was there just in case. And I was so glad to get rid of that just in case. But it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful process. And I haven't sponsored anybody for a while. But truth be told, I don't remember anything that people told me anyway. So it's safe with me because I don't remember. And my sponsor said the same thing. She said, I've listened to so many tip steps, I don't remember. And I thought that's the whole point. I mean, it doesn't say that you have to share it with somebody that's going to remember it. You're just going to share it. And in fact, I thought she was sleeping a couple times while I was going through my fifth step. But even if she was, it doesn't matter because my instructions were to share it. So, one more thing. One of my new friends in my fellowship here he's a newcomer, and boy, he was a nervous wreck and pacing and just, you could definitely tell something was up. And then he said something at a meeting. He goes, well, I've been sitting on my fourth step for 2 months, and everybody in the room went, oh. Because we know what it feels like. A lot of us, have seen when you're holding on to it, it's one thing to do it, but don't hold on to it. So anyway, he did share it with one of the other guys that, it was kind of fun to see the process. Anyway, thanks for letting me share. I love you all. Good night.
Thank you, Miss Terry. Rick, come in and share with us.
Hello, everyone. Rick Alcoholico. It's good to be able to jump in on this meeting. This step here. My first sponsor would always say to me, when I wasn't inviting God into my and to come into this program with me, my first sponsor, I came in 2008. I did a detox in 2009 while I was still in AA. Did another detox, and he stayed with me. And he would always talk to me about asking God for help, and I'm fearing that I'm going to have to go to church or something like that. But one day I did. And I said to him, okay, I guess I need your help. It took me to realize a couple of weeks went by for me to realize that his entry into my recovery program was profound and quick, and it happened that night. But it took me 2 weeks to realize that, because I was sitting in a meeting where they were, of course, talk about not drinking, and I said, man, you haven't thought about going to a liquor store after a meeting or before a meeting in 2 weeks or something like that. So to me, he's been real ever since. I understand why the first sponsor I had, he's gone now. I still said good morning to him. He was put in my life. He came, he says, look, you're not asking me, but I'm going to ask you. I will sponsor you. I will sponsor you if you want me to. And I said yes, because I wasn't asking anybody else yet. I had other ideas, other guys, but he's the one I was really getting close with. And when we got to this, there was no question in my mind he was going to take to his grave what I gave him. And the sponsor that I have today is going to take to his grave what I did not give to that first sponsor. I held on to one thing for a couple of years. I held on to one thing. And I'm in Delaware now. I started in the Boston area. And I woke up one morning. I didn't hear a voice. I didn't feel a shove. There was this, get rid of it today. Called my sponsor. I said, you going to that noontime meeting? He said, yeah. What are you doing afterwards? I got to do some shopping. He says, I got to talk to you. And as soon as we had the first moment of privacy, I gave it to him. Man didn't flinch. We spoke, hung around for another hour or so. I thought I might hear, you need another sponsor, man. I'm not going to deal with that. But he took it as if, oh, I stole a bag of chips out of Walmart type thing. That's the man who's in my life today. You know, where it says here, we find that trusting person. But for me, if I'm having trouble, I have to ask God for help. I'm a sponsor now. I'm always in step work with others. I've been invited to hop in to be on the board of a men's living sober home, and those guys approached me. I took one through it. You just got through, and I'm taking another two through it. And to be in this stuff all the time, here's how it helps me. You know, when I'm in my home, and we're going through the heat wave here, and I'm in my home, I get up in the morning, I love daylight, open all your blinds, let the sun in and all that. And then she gets up, and the next thing you know, the blinds are halfway closed. Every morning I ask them, God, please help me watch over my thoughts, which can turn to words and then into actions. Something so minor can still set this old mind off, and it doesn't go on. I may say something, we go back and forth a bit, you know, and but she's right. Damn it, she is right. We should close our blinds a little bit. Don't let all that sun in. It's gonna make your AC work over time and all that. It's true. She's right. So I love this work because it keeps me tuned up. And working with others. Now, I've worked with guys, one with a PhD, one with 2 masters, another one who was a Navy SEAL. Man, I've had the different walks, white, black, woman, and if anybody would have threatened my life, because they say, for me, if you would have threatened me and say, I'll kill you if you relive me, I'll say, you ain't ready for none of this. You need to go back to one and look at unmanageability. You may not be drinking. Number two, look at your sanity. And number three, let's ask God for help, because you ain't no way in shape or form. Because this is not what this is about. If you don't trust me, step aside, let me walk on by. I talk to these guys like that, you know? Yeah, you know, this is life and death. You know, if you feel that way, I've never, but that would be my reaction. You know, let's not hook up, because you're threatening my life. Guess what? You know, I'm gonna have to watch over him. I have to watch out for you and all this stuff, and I'm not gonna live that way. So for me, taking others through the steps. This is God keeping me busy. That's another prayer of mine. It's a small prayer. Lord, keep me busy. Keep me busy with this work. I told my wife, yeah, I've been by automobile dealership, a salesman said, hey, I could use some cars delivered here and there. You know, I said, okay, yeah, I'll do that once in a while. My wife says, I don't want you working. She's the one that had to pull me back in, reel me back into those ideas. She says, you go to Footprints, the house pays for that. You go away with your friends, the house pays for that. You go to 2 NASCAR races somewhere in the country, the house pays for that. What do you mind, well? I said, yeah. And I don't know. I still got that defect or more, but yeah. For me, you have to pick a trusting person, and if you are having trouble as a newcomer, or even somebody who needs a new sponsor, pray to God to help you choose a person. You know, so that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Glad you're here. All right, Kat, come in and share with us.
I am Kat. I'm an alcoholic. I've been in and out for years without doing all the steps. Not doing the required house cleaning. So I drank, and I drank for decades. I had spiritual beliefs. Since I've come back to this program, back in January, I've changed so much. It's completely different this time. And it's because I meant it. I really meant it. When I said, God, please help me, because I'm done. I'm done. And I am on the right path. And I know it in my heart that I'm on the right path. And I feel it in my heart that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And maybe not perfectly, but I've been sober. And that's a miracle, because I wanted to die. So I just found out yesterday that my big brother passed away as a direct result of this disease. Okay, and he was 57 years old. He's been in and out of this program for his entire life as well, all of my siblings. But now he's dead. And he died miserable, alone, and drunk. And that's not what I want to do. That's not where I want to go. I want to stay on this path, And God saw fit to keep me around all of this time. for a reason. And I'm blessed. I'm just blessed to have found people that I can trust, because I don't trust anybody. Hell no. But, you know, I'm learning a lot. And because I'm open to it, like Lisa said, I'm open to it now. I was just completely closed off. And I'm just so grateful to be sober today and not want to die. Today I want to live, and that feels awesome. So I know someday all of this, you know, will help somebody else, and, you know, I'm looking forward to these promises coming true in my life and, you know, other people's lives. Unfortunately, not everybody gets it, you know. So, all right, thanks for listening.
Thank you, Kat. Glad you're here. And thank you for sharing that with us. Aaron, come on in and share with us.
I thank you, and I love all these wonderful shares tonight. I kind of miss the reading, but I definitely know. You know, I know what's going on. I have a crazy little boy, but when I love, and Jamie introduced this to me, is it odd or is it God? And I only think about this. What got me to my fourth and fifth step was, and I think about it a lot. When I called the rehab this time, they told me it was like a 2 or 3 week waiting period, and you know, rehab's only 29 to 31 days, and you know, that was the beginning of my relationship with God, and you know, not those just what do they call it, like toilet bowl prayers. I was really praying, and what turned into a 2 to 3 week wait, it was like 2 or 3 days later, they're like, hey, we have a bed, are you ready to go today? And you know, I was more than ready, and I said, yeah, my bags are packed, come get me. And they did. And in that time is where I you know, I went on a Monday, and I met Jamie the next day on, I think it was either a Tuesday or Wednesday. So I think it was Wednesday, and that was our only source of AA there. And you know, when he came in, I saw the wall, I saw all that good jazz, and you know, when the pain is greater than the fear, and boy was I in pain. But what a godsend, because you know, the first thing I ever, and it stuck with me and it sticks with me to this day, and I always say this prayer at least once a week, even though I may not have to, but it holds near and dear to me. And he said, you know, I said this one prayer, and it's probably out of context, and I probably say out of context, but it works for me. You know, please take these cravings and the obsession to use or to drink. And I don't know why it stuck with me, but I said it like right then and there. I said it that night, and I did want to use. I wanted to go to rehab. I wanted to change, but I still had those, you know, those thoughts. And the miracle was the next day, and from that day forward till right now, I have not thought about picking up a drink or non-comprehensive substances since then. does the thought occur to me, like a little thought? I think I've only had like maybe 2 or 3, and that's been a long time. But right then and there, I knew I was going to ask him to be my sponsor, and he is my sponsor today. Could I do better? Yeah, I could probably do a little better, but I think I'm right where I need to be. I've had some shortcomings with my relationship with my higher power, but I've been really building that up again, and I'll never forget. I went in. I went to his house. Before I get there, the reason why I think is that there's a God, because the only source of recovery for AA that we got was only short-lived. He was only with us in rehab for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then there was a misunderstanding, but that was it. But I was very lucky and grateful enough to get his number. And the moment I got out, it was like 20 minutes later, I got to the house and I called him. And I think it was like 6 weeks later, we were doing my 4th and 5th to 8, right in his living room. And I usually procrastinate. I've been in and out of the rooms myself. I always went for the wrong reasons, and I just couldn't live that way. And when I walked out of Jamie's house, I was a forgiving person. I was a new person. Because one of the questions he asked me was, what do you want to get back? And I was like, well, my old life. And he was like, why would you want that? That's also okay. It is like, why would you want your old life back? All I ever knew was alcohol and other stuff and misery. And when I really thought about that, there was beauty in that. Because I get to build something today that's so wonderful and amazing. And I went from homeless to a family man, no license, no nothing. And I have all of that because of you guys and sponsorship and, going through the steps in this book. And for that, I am very grateful. And thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Aaron. Glad you're here. My name's Alyssa. I'm a recovered alcoholic. So, I honestly, I remember doing my 4th step. I shared my 5th with my first sponsor when I came into the rooms in October of 2020, voluntarily. Free will, I guess you could say. Well, yes. When I came into my first Zoom AA meeting voluntarily, but it really wasn't. I had already taken step 1. I was in the midst of step 2 without even knowing it, because I had all the desperation of a drowning man. That part I was experiencing. And then soon, 93 days later, or after, 120 some days later, then the court put it into effect. But I was already well into like 500 meetings. I was beyond my 5th step, into the 8th step. But, so that's why I don't recall much of it, because my focus, if I think back to that time period in my life, I was more worried about the 5 years I was about to lose, or that I was facing, because I didn't know what was going to happen. So because I was thinking about it as we were reading this, why can I not remember? Like, that should have been the most freeing thing for me, But that was, I could see where that block was, and more gets revealed, and that's where I get to live in step 10, because when these things come up, I get rid of them as quickly as possible, because I don't want to hold on to them. I don't want to take into tomorrow what I can leave in today. And so when we were reading this, it says, when we decide who is to hear our story. And I understand that this might be written a different way, but I felt God as this popped out to me. And it took me back to page 63, where I took step 3, and I turned my will and my life over the care of God as I understood Him. And so when I did that, I had a new employer. He is the principal and I am his agent. He is the father and I am his child. So when today, of course I don't have the same sponsor that I had when I came in. These decisions that I make today, I ask God. If I don't, I'm quickly reminded by the uneasy results of my selfish decision without bringing in my higher power. And I get the opportunity to facilitate workshops, the 12 steps, and the way they did it back in the old days. And with that comes what now I see on page 74 is not just suggestions to me, but yes, if I'm going to sponsor, I need to take into consideration what it is that I'm doing here. I'm not only just communicating to them, but I need to be this. I need to be this understanding yet unaffected person. I need to be closed mouth. I need to be able to keep a confidence. And if I can't do that, as someone who is taking someone else through the steps, then yes, I need to step aside if I'm going to be affected, right? Because then it says, an understanding yet unaffected person. So I'm looking at this a different way after tonight's study, as someone who does take others through the 12 steps and sponsors, and so I'm thankful for this, because what this shows, this is a study book, and if I'm open-minded, I'm here, so I'm willing. I'm honest today, because these promises come true for me when I live in step 10. If something comes up and I get rid of it, these are daily promises for me, as long as I stay in the work, because I am sitting in Lewisburg, Tennessee, which is about 700 miles away from my home, a home that I wouldn't walk out of without being full of fear and anxiety. So as I'm sitting here talking to you, I am living these promises as a result of these steps. And that all happens because of God. And that one that we begin to feel the nearness of my Creator, well, let me tell you, He's inside of me right now, and He's all around me. And I've been able to feel not just that presence because of my relationship with Him, but His presence as a result of others' relationships with Him as I've been here. And that's just been simply amazing. Have my character defects come up while I've been here? Yep. Yeah. And I'm sure others have too. And, But even through that, tonight, as we were going through that, I'm like, as mine were starting to come out, as I was trying, like, almost feeding on other emotions, I was like, no. And quietly, I brought myself back to God. And I wasn't allowing anything but God's peace to come in through me. Once it was like, nope, I don't like it when I don't feel these promises, because I know what it is to feel them today, because as a result of this work. And so I'm quick to get back into the experience of these promises. It's not always perfect. I'm not even going to start with my clauses, because that's a character defect, and I'm going to take that right back to God. He'll let me know if I need to share that with my sponsor. I keep coming back because that promise of more gets revealed happens. Nothing so much ensures my immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. And yes, technically, according to schedule, I started vacation on July 3rd. My alcoholism doesn't take vacations. So the service work didn't stop. And I'm thankful I didn't allow that part of my, well, it wasn't going to, because I just said it, So on Saturday, I was able to, take 7 others through the steps, leaving, having, then they were able to walk away having a 4th step ready to share it with another person. The only thing they had to do was their 5th and 9th step. Because I can't control if people, fully disclose what's on their 4th step. That's between them and God. I can only give the direction and share how it worked for me. But man, I can look back at these last 6 days and see where I would have lost out if I would have imposed my will. And there's probably moments where I did impose my will, but I know that there's some really big ones that I recognize. But that's where that relationship with my higher power is, as I'm saying this, is really important, because I begin my day with one time with him, and I end my day with one-on-one time with him. And I try to check myself as much as possible going throughout the day. And this way of life is, one of the promises is that I would live a life beyond my dreams today. And I would be rocketed into the 4th dimension of existence. For me, I feel like I'm in the 96th dimension. And that God consciousness. And the lesson that I've learned this week by being here is that I need to stop apologizing for my dependence on God. And I need to stop going to people for that reassurance, because He's reassuring me right now. I'm literally sitting in a spiritual experience. And 4 years ago, you couldn't tell me that life was going to be like this, because I was hopeless. I was drinking from the beginning of the day until the end of the night, and I had a 3-month-old baby. And nothing could stop me from picking up that bottle. Not the love for any of my children, and I love my children deeply. But there was one who has all power, and that one is God, and he's saving my life today. And he's giving me this life that I do deserve. And I need to stop telling myself that I don't deserve this. Because I do deserve it. And my children are getting a better life because of this. Because the program comes out in me. This way of life comes out in me. And yes, sometimes I'm quick and short to lose it with them. But, you know, there's opportunity. If I didn't have opportunity today, I wouldn't come back. You know, so... and that's where that reinforcement, that's why I'm saying what I need to say tonight. And I'm sorry I took up extra time. No, I'm not sorry. And I'm going to keep it. Because that's how God is working on me, is that, yes, in the midst of the sentence of me saying something that's harming me or others, I need to correct it, you know? And so I'm thankful. I'm thankful for each and every one of you. I'm thankful to the naysayers that say that this isn't recovery. Because maybe that's why it encouraged me so much in the beginning. That bit of, I'll show you. Because that's kind of maybe what was there. But you know what? My experience is that you can't tell me that God doesn't show his power through a screen. And then when you actually get to meet these people, because this is the second time in a year that I've been able to meet people that I only got to see through images on a computer screen. But the power of God is real. Doesn't matter what frequency he's coming through. That's my experience, so thank you for letting me share. Jamie, come back in, please.
All I can say is wow. I want to thank everybody for being here and for your rich and powerful shares and experience tonight. For being able to share grief, for being able to share experience, and be part of all of this. You know, I'm going to mention Lppbbsg for just a second. I have had the joy and honor of being with many of the people in this room, not just sitting in my house tonight, but others who have gone home, like Terry and others. And the last 10 days, exactly what Alyssa has said, have been living in a spiritual experience. And this is powerful. You know, folks, most of the time we go to meetings and we fellowship for a few minutes before and after the meetings. But this is the type of bonding that will take us through life, because all of us are living the program and learning how to live the program rather than just being a meeting maker. Because there is a vast difference in that. But I want to give a special thanks to Alyssa, because, you know, folks, we're always putting it out in this group that we need service and we have service opportunities available. While Alyssa has helped us do this many times, she has made a decision on her own without being bullied into it or beaten with a pickle or anything like that, to become part of the facilitation of this meeting, to do the screen shares and do the hosting and come into this. This meeting doesn't work without you folks being here. And it is such a blessing to have each and every one of you, and I hope you will continue to come and grow with us. And it is my hope that others of you that are home group members will at some point in time, that God will put it on your heart to become a facilitator as well. Because this group, while I have been part of some amazing groups in my life, I have never been part of a group like this. And I truly believe, you know, at the end of step 7, It says, grant me strength as I go from here to do your bidding. Amen. And all of us are here together, whether you're a home group member or not, doing God's bidding, helping one alcoholic to another find recovery. What a beautiful experience. Thank you for my life. Thank you for the gift and honor of allowing me to be part of yours. And thank you all for your service to this group.
Thank you, Jamie. From page 164.
Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Alright. For those of you who aren't with us, we have a special way of closing out.
I got a dog in
We
my
hold
lap.
our hands up to the screen. And we're going to take a moment of silence for those that still are sick and suffering in and outside of our rooms, and then we will close with the Lord's Prayer. Here's your moment. Who brings us from shame to grace if we let Him? Our Father,
who art in heaven,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Keep coming back.
Thank you. Have a good night, y'all. Thank you.
Good night,
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.